What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I got an early screening for the newest Marvel movie, The Marvels, the sequel to 2019's Captain Marvel, and it follows up Disney Plus TV show Miss Marvel and I guess Secret Invasion, although nobody fucking watched Secret Invasion. Nobody gives a shit about Secret Invasion. Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, has reclaimed her identity from the tyrannical Kree and taken revenge on the Supreme Intelligence. But unintended consequences see Carol shouldering the burden of a destabilized universe when her duties send her to an anomalous wormhole linked to a Kree revolutionary. Her powers become entangled with that of a Jersey City superfan, Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, and Carol's estranged niece, now Saber astronaut Captain Monica Rambeau. Together, the unlikely trio must team up and learn to work in concert to save the universe and figure out why they keep switching places anytime they use their powers simultaneously. For some stupid reason, there's been a lot of discourse about the Marvels. Look, I just don't think the trailers are doing it for anybody. I think the trailer sold me on the tone of the movie, that it was just going to be a fun, lighthearted, easy breezy, but yet sort of disposable Marvel movie. That's what I was going in expecting, and essentially that's what I walked out thinking it was. I had fun with the Marvels. I enjoyed myself. I was entertained, but at the same time, it's just a movie that exists. It's okay. It's disposable. Brie Larson, I think, is a lot better here than she was in the first Captain Marvel. I didn't hate her in the first Captain Marvel. For some reason, everybody was against Brie Larson. I don't know, because the internet is stupid. Yeah, you know how the internet works. But if you are a person who legitimately had legit criticisms with her performance in the first Captain Marvel, I think you'll be surprised here. It seems like she's filling in the role a lot more easily now. She has a couple of comedic quips that I think actually work. It seems like she has more of a personality in this movie as opposed to the first movie. I think that will make a lot of people happy. That might put a giant smile on their face. I do think that Teyonah Parris and Iman Vellani are equally as great in this movie. When the three work together in tandem, they are fantastic. Their chemistry is off the charts. They couldn't have cast this cast of characters any better than they did. I'm glad it's these three, because I can't really picture anybody else in these roles. I just don't really see how it could happen. I thought that they were the heart and soul of this movie. They really carried this movie, and everything with them, almost every scene in the movie is with them, except for when it cuts back to Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury and his stuff, what's going on with him. But sometimes they're in scenes with him as well. And I mean, they really carry it. They do. And it was nice having a Marvel movie that felt smaller in scale to what we've been getting lately. What I did like about this movie, what made me enjoy it quite a bit, actually, is the tone. Everything I wanted Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania to be in terms of tone, enjoyment, entertainment, lightheartedness, everything I wanted that movie to be is what this movie is. Sure, Quantumania has Kang, but Kang literally saves that movie. I think that a lot of the humor in that movie was forced, almost all of it, or it was very dry in that movie. The humor here is a mixed bag. I think it works a lot better here than it does in something like Quantumania, and especially Love and Thunder. Let's talk about Love and Thunder for a minute, because I feel like Love and Thunder wanted to be what this movie was, but just overreached. It pushed its boundaries far beyond what it could actually handle in terms of jokes. For instance, in this movie, the three leads go to a planet, and there's this in-joke that the language there is just people singing. It's a musical planet, and there's this weird, odd musical number, which I didn't really like. But at the same time, I kind of did like it because it did feel like something that was fresh and different for a Marvel movie. That's where I think Marvel needs to start going, is being a little bit different. But my point being is that this movie has that scene for about, like, I would say 2 minutes, and then they don't bring it up again. Whereas something like Love and Thunder would definitely keep having that as a running joke. And it would keep trying to get that gag laugh out of you, and then it would just keep going to the point where the joke felt tiresome. That never happened with this movie. Even though that scene was a mixed bag for me, things like that didn't overstay their welcome. I'm glad things like that in this movie were more tied down. Nia DaCosta and the rest of the filmmakers knew that they could go out and be a little bit zany, but it might not work. And just in case it doesn't work for audiences, we're not going to overdo ourselves here. We're not going to overstretch or overreach. And I gotta appreciate them for that. But at the same time, this movie is super, super duper disposable. The plot and the villain are easily the worst parts of this movie. Dar-Ben is a terrible villain, and I mean terrible. I'm talking Malekith Drycoff level. When I can say somebody is worse than Malekith, that's saying something, because I already feel that way. Drycoff in Black Widow. But when I can say somebody's worse than both Drycoff and Malekith, wow, yep, I think Dar-Ben takes the cake for worst MCU villain. I just didn't give a shit. What is the big deal here? The plot's just so small, you know? I get it, we're going for a bit of a more smaller scale movie, but the plot just wasn't that interesting. I think Marvel's got to stop with these villains who are just like, you have some sort of thing or object that I need, now give it to me and kneel before me and give it to me. I found myself struggling to keep up with it at times, and it's not because it was complicated, it was just because I was tuning out every time Dar-Ben was on screen, except for the action scenes, and I was just not interested in the backstory surrounding Dar-Ben, her whole plan, what she wants to do. I was like, ugh, she feels like a Phase 1 villain. Actually, no. Scratch that. She feels like a Phase 0 villain. Yes, there is a Phase 0 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That means you didn't make it past the concept stage, and that's where you should have stayed, Dar-Ben. Those two things drag this movie down a lot. The visual effects also aren't that great. There's a scene that I literally thought in my head as it was happening. I compared it to that scene of Indiana Jones in the new Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Destiny, where the indie theme is playing, and then you see really terrible CGI'd Harrison Ford running on top of a train. There was a scene like that at the beginning of this movie. And I was just like taken aback, and I couldn't believe that Marvel still hasn't fixed their visual effects problem. I will say, when they are filming on sets or location, I liked that stuff because I felt like they could actually interact with objects in the space around them, and I did feel as if that there were more sets used here, or that they filmed more on location than they have in the previous few Marvel movies, where it just felt like there's a giant green screen everywhere. The green screen, though, is noticeable, and the full body CGI images are completely noticeable, though, too. You will notice them, especially if you're looking for them. I want to talk about one final positive before I end the review, and that is the action. I think the action is another big reason why I enjoyed this movie. Nia DaCosta does a really good job filming it. She turns the camera a lot. There's a lot of different angles. It's not quick cutting. She makes sure everything's in frame. I just like seeing all three of them use their powers in tandem simultaneously to try and achieve the goal that they're trying to achieve in that moment in those action scenes. And I think when they kept using their powers and they kept switching places with each other, that made for some creative action, and that was where I was the most entertained. Not to say that the end didn't really entertain me with the final action scene, but when they're using their powers, that's when I was the most entertained. When it cuts back to Dar-Ben and her whole plan and some of the visual effects and even the Nick Fury stuff.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you were here?
I didn't care about his side stuff, or even when they're not using their powers. I think another element that makes the three of them really interesting is them figuring out how to not use their powers simultaneously. Like them being in a situation where they have to fight people. Carol or Monica telling Kamala, don't use your powers here, and would that screw things up? And I like that concept of it. I just wish they didn't get away from using the powers, because that's when I was having the most fun. But the action's great. Our three leads are great. I think the chemistry is off the charts with our three leads, and Nia DaCosta does a great job at directing this movie. It delivered what I wanted for a movie like this, for the vibe the trailers were giving off. A nice, lighthearted, easily digestible, entertaining movie that you can enjoy, but at the same time, a disposable movie that doesn't really do much. There are a couple of surprises that I liked. I'll get into more of that in a spoiler review. The final scene of the movie caught me off guard, and I really liked that surprise. The mid-credit scene, I heard nothing about it. I was really freaking out with that scene. I did enjoy it. I'm curious to see what everybody's going to think about it, because I feel like the discourse surrounding this movie is just so strange to me that people are already making up their mind before seeing the movie. Sure, I get it. You don't enjoy the trailer, it makes the movie look bad, so you think the movie's gonna be bad. I thought Edge of Tomorrow was gonna be a horrible movie because the trailers did nothing for me. Look at Edge of Tomorrow, it's a great movie. Just because the trailers are bad shouldn't give you a preconceived notion that the movie's gonna be bad. Give the movie a chance. If you don't like it, fine. If you like it, fine. If you're somewhere in the middle or mixed to slightly positive like I am, fine. As long as you have well thought out or logical reasons to why you dislike it, to why you really like it, that's fine. But if you're just gonna go on the internet and say, Brie Larson attacked me, then yeah, no, I'm not gonna take you seriously with this movie because that's just stupid. The discourse surrounding this whole thing is just, it's weird, man. I do hate this notion though that we do have to do homework to catch up on these things. Like you have to watch Miss Marvel to catch up on this. That's another thing. I felt like I was playing catch up with this movie at the beginning. It is a short movie. It's an hour and 45 minutes. It did feel like it was speeding along a little bit too fast at the beginning. The pacing was so off in the beginning, the first 20 minutes or so. I will say the Marvels is enjoyable with just over half a bucket of popcorn. Did take me a little bit to get into it, but it is enjoyable enough even if it is disposable, which might be a contradiction. They're an enjoyable, disposable movie. How about that? So if you guys are going to see the Marvels, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below when you see it. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.